Hello, I'm going to talk to you about the literacy assessment task for Term 2. You can see it in front of you here. We're going to be reading a poem called My Country. It's written by Dorothea Mackellar. We're going to read it in your literacy groups, but you're going to look at 3 verses out of the poem. So it's not the whole poem, just part of it. And you're going to highlight in orange any words that are unfamiliar to you, and you're going to find their meaning. And you write the meanings next to the poem, and you can see this example here. If I didn't know the meaning of the word sunburnt, I would highlight it in orange, and then over here I'm going to write what it means, burnt by the sun. Okay, I've put this in italics to show that I wrote it. We're going to put it into the same document. You're going to actually type in this document. Then at the end of each verse, I've put a box here that says summary. And after you've gone through and you've worked out the meaning of the words you don't know, you're then going to look at the verse as a whole and write down just a sentence or possibly 2 about what that verse is about. Okay, and you do that for each verse. That's the step 3 here. Then I want you to highlight in blue any figurative language used by the poet. So we've been learning about figurative language. Here's an example. Ragged mountain ranges is an example of alliteration. So I'm identifying it by highlighting it and then writing down what it is. So you do that for those 3 verses. And then this is a writing activity that you're going to do again in class, and your teacher will give you more information about this. But you go through and we're writing our own verse based on Dorothea Mackellar's poem. And there's instructions here that you follow. And then see this part here? This is where you type in your verse. So actually have another document that you'll do all this work in, and then once you've written your verse, you can just copy it and paste it down the bottom here. I'm going to have you have a quick look at the rubric with you. So C is obviously what we're expecting you to achieve in this activity. And we're looking at these aspects here. I'm going to make it smaller so you can see the whole thing. Vocabulary and word knowledge, and your summary. That's going to tell us how you understand that. We're going to be looking at your ability to identify figurative language in the poem. We're going to be looking at, this is coherence of text, just means the verse that you're writing, it makes sense. Okay? And we're going to be looking at your use of adjectival phrases. This is something you will learn about when you study the poem. And we're going to be looking at the ideas that you've put in your poetry. So they're the different aspects. These numbers here are the outcomes, and so they correspond with what we're expecting you to learn. So you need to be able to identify your unknown words and find definitions that assist you to understand the poem. And we'll know that you've understood it by what you write in your summary. If you find definitions that aren't appropriate in the context of the poem, you know, sometimes you look it up and you go, that definition doesn't make sense. Well, you're going to get a D for that, because the purpose of this, of looking up the definitions, is so that you understand the poem better. In order to get an A, you need to be able to do a really excellent summary. So your definitions, the words that you're looking up, will help you understand it so that you can then interpret it and explain it. Okay, so there's sort of 2 parts to that one. The figurative language, it's the only difference between a C and an A is the amount that you find. So 1 or 2, 3 will get you a B, 4 will get you an A. Okay, so there's a clue right there. We're going to be looking at your ability to imitate Dorothea Mackellar's verse structure. So we want you to have a bit of a go at that. If you are able to do it, that's a B. And if you can do it and create something highly original, so even make it your own a little bit, that's what an A is going to look like. We want you to include figurative language when you're writing your poem, like Dorothea Mackellar does. So if you attempt it, that's going to get you a C. That's what we're hoping. It's quite hard. Not all of her verses use alliteration or use similes and that kind of thing, but we want you to have a go at putting it in. And if you do it successfully, that will be a B. And if you're using more than 2, that's what you need to do to get an A. And yeah, we're going to get you to write your own verse about a place that's familiar to you. And this is just looking at your ideas that you've used. We want you to use original ideas in order to get an A there. So I hope that will help you to do really well on your assessment, and look forward to reading your poems and reading your summaries and seeing your analysis.